You know, I could still keep working part-time maybe if they would allow me to work online. And they were like, go ahead. Like we would be waiting just for you to be back, but you can totally work online. We are building a nap space at University of Twente so that students and employees can get a nap and recharge during the workday. How do you find funding for the project you're building? And for us, it was crowdfunded through Incentive Fund, U Fund, and also departments, Lisa and HR.
Hello everyone, my name is Timur and this is UT Journeys. Today we're talking to Viktoriia Konashchuk. She hosted a few entrepreneurial events in Enschede. She was part of 2 student boards, Dutch Negotiation Network and Twente Debating Society, and she works part-time at Topicus. So let's meet her. Hello Viktoriia, it's nice to see you. How are you doing?
Hi Tim. Nice being here. I'm doing great, excited for today's podcast. How are you doing?
Yeah, same. Also quite excited. So let's start with our first topic of today. I think people could have seen you somewhere on stage, right? How did you end up there? Can you tell us your story?
Yes, definitely. Once I've hosted Dutch Innovation Days, and then 2 times I hosted finals of UT Challenge. It was quite exciting. I think it's worth mentioning that UT is one of the most entrepreneurial universities in the Netherlands. I think it's the most entrepreneurial university in the Netherlands. And it's very nice. We also have like startup incubator on campus. And I was really willing to be part of the startup community here. And while I didn't have my startup then, but it's still the desire to be associated with the entrepreneurial community made me also host the UT Challenge, and it was quite exciting.
And what about Dutch Innovation Days?
It's also great. I think it's totally different format because for UT Challenge, people are coming, students are with their own startups. It's the whole incubation program where you are being mentored, you're being helped by people who know more about startups and doing your own thing. And then you compete with other startups for the award at the end. So it's more student-oriented. Dutch Innovation Days is a bit different because professionals from different spheres are invited and they share their knowledge or what they're working on. And it's also quite exciting, just a different format.
Okay, cool. And what was your motivation to do it?
I think it's one about staying connected to the community. For example, entrepreneurial community is very close to my heart because you want to know the cool people who are driving the change, who are willing to do something extra except for just studying, but they're also ambitious enough to go with risky and crazy ideas. And also staying connected to the sphere, that even in the moments where you don't have your own startup, you can still be part of the community. And one day I totally plan to again try myself in the startup. I had a startup a couple of years ago and I worked on it for 3.5 years. And I think now it's the moment of you're still being inspired with many people. And then I'm pretty sure I will end up in startups once again. So it's nice to have the connections for that period of time.
Makes sense. But for instance, what was your application like? Did people just reach out to you to hire you as a host, or what was the process?
I think it applies to many. It's not only for hosting, but for many possibilities on UT campus, is that you just walk into those opportunities. So say you want to be involved in something connected with entrepreneurship. I think how it was for me, I just started to be involved. I saw that they have some event, and I'm like, okay, I will take part in this event and then in that event. And being involved, you also make connections with organizers or with mentors of that program. So then from time to time, any time that you pass Incubase office, you will be like, hi, how are you doing? And then you'll get to know about more events and like Friday drinks. I think they used to have them once a month. I don't know, how is it now? And once you unintentionally start to become part of that community. So you always end up knowing about more possibilities. So for UT Challenge, they just reached out to me. It's like, hey, do you want to co-host UT Challenge Finals? And I was super happy to do that. And I think this works also for many other opportunities on campus. You just do first proactive action towards something, and then you see more opportunities opening in front of you.
Cool. So in other words, networking is the key.
For sure.
If you were asked to host something again, would you agree?
Yeah, I think it's it's very fun thing to do, and it's also per year you host it every time differently, right? You're improving yourself, and by the way, not necessarily every next year is a better one. Sometimes it can go in waves, but it's totally a fun thing to do. For me, it's I like being on the stage and hosting something. So same as it was UT Challenge, Dutch Innovation Days, but also volunteering at that, even though it's not being on stage, but still you're involved with this community. So I think it was not the last time that I hosted that. Oh, and Dutch Innovation Days, we hosted it together, right?
Yeah.
It was great, right?
Yeah, it was cool.
Would you host it again?
I mean, even though we were on the different stages, but I think I would. I mean, it's pretty cool. Unfortunately, I wasn't invited this year. I think they changed the hosts cohort, but yeah, I would do it again.
They innovated with people.
Yeah. And you said that sometimes you improve, sometimes you don't, but do you have an advice for people who want to improve in their public speaking, for instance?
Yeah, there is a lot of courses, both online and offline, and even on UT campus. I think you can even say here more about that, because I know that on UT campus we have public speaking courses. It's not a regular thing, but rather a seasonal thing. But maybe you have more information about that.
I like how you just put Uno reverse card here. Actually, I'm following public speaking courses right now. I think they're organized by UT Library, if I'm not mistaken, or Career Services. I don't know, but it's basically 4 sessions of 3 hours, and you get to improve a lot in your public speaking abilities. And it's not like a dry course where they just tell you should stand like this and hold your hands like this. It's very practical and hands-on course. So you have to present a lot and collaborate with other students during the course. And I think it's pretty cool if you want to improve in public speaking.
Yeah. Sounds great. I've heard your comments about that, and it's like, yeah, sounds incredible.
Yeah, it really is. And I wanted to ask you, I think I saw that you were part of UIF, and I think we talked with previous guests a little bit about UIF. So the question to you is, was there a project you undertook during your UIF time, University Universal Fellows, which you liked the most?
Yes, of course, I have a biased opinion towards my own project. I think UF is a great program. I will not talk about it too much because, as you said, it was already discussed in the podcast previously. But what I will say that I know that also Nina Stevenson was previously here in the podcast, and we are doing a project together, but also with Chantal Emling. We are building a nap space at University of Twente so that students and employees can get a nap and recharge during the workday. And we're having this space in the library where everyone is focused so much on their work, so that I feel like the need is there. And it was also by our questionnaires, there was the biggest need in that. So SNOOZE is a project for well-being that we did together with Nina and Chantal.
Cool. And what is the difference between making a project under UIF cohort and making your startup, for instance?
I think there's quite a big difference, and I was super excited to learn about that, because as a startup, you usually have more freedom, because you can do anything. You're not as regulated, so you don't have to necessarily align all the stakeholders, because you're sort of more can be ruling your startup way more. When building something for university, you work in the highly regulated environment, meaning, for example, our nap space now looks like we have a nap pod there, and we have also some other things for convenience of people for taking a nap. But for example, even with the nap pod, it took us a really long time to finally settle with the provider, with the supplier for the nap pod, just because there are so many conditions for the capsule to be on campus. So it needs to have special certifications. You need to think about how it will work with a fire system, just because in case it cannot be too, from one perspective, students say, hey, we want it to be noise reducing as much as possible. From another side, if you will make it very much noise cancelling, then you don't hear in case the fire alarm will go off in the building. And this is unsafe. Then you have to think, okay, maybe we should inbuild the fire signalization in the capsule, but then it will be too loud, and like we don't want to make people deaf after in case something like this happens. So it's the balancing between safety, complying to all the regulations, but also pursuing our own vision of it. I think it's quite interesting to balance all that. And surely many things take way longer time than you would normally do it in startup, just because also people have to be all aligned, and it's one of the many projects they're running. So it's one decisions can be taken through months. So it's definitely longer, but it doesn't make it less interesting.
Mm-hmm. But how did you come up with this idea? I mean, sounds very innovative.
We wanted to do something for well-being of students and employees on campus, because well-being is the big thing, and also with the recent years we see more and more effort put into improving the well-being. So we were thinking what to do with it, and then we found also research and also noticed a trend. Say if you look at big tech offices, you will see, for example, in Google's office, they also have the locations for recharging, something like nap pods. And yeah, we have many examples. We also know that these capsules are already present in Delft and also in University of Amsterdam. And they also say that they showed there was quite good traction. So it showed that students were interested in using that. And it was still interesting because we know that it's not in culture to take naps here. So I know in the Asian culture, say in Vietnam, at 12 a.m., all the lights in the office would go off and everybody would be taking a nap on the chairs, on the sofas, anywhere they find place. But here you would never see that because it's just not that many people take a nap. And also on campus, quite some people live next to campus. So at first we had to validate the idea and we did some questionnaires among students. And we found that 50, I think it was around half of the students of us, they would say that, we would be interested in using this. And when even going through the whole 1 year and a half of the existence of this project till now, we were till the last moment not sure whether it will be used. But of course, you only know this for sure only once you already have the nap pod on campus. And I would say I am even impressed by how it's going now. Because it's occupied very often. I see we don't have a booking system for it right now, even though we have the optional booking system if you want to know for sure, like through Resource Booker, how you would book the project room anywhere else on campus. You can also book an app pod now. We have it for now. We're just testing the system and see. So if you want to have that for sure booked, then you will book it there. But you can also just walk in and see if it is free. And many times that I'm going to the library just for studying, I take a look and I'm like, I see it's occupied. And honestly, every time it makes me feel so happy, because when you did something, you gave something back to university, and it's incredible feeling when you say, I did something useful,
Yeah, I think it's always great to leave some kind of legacy at university, right? Yeah, and I think it's a pretty cool project, and I feel like we are following the trend here.
For sure, on the way of a trend.
Okay, but how did you make this project possible? I mean, it requires money, How did you find fundings for it?
Yes, I think university is a great place, especially if you just want to start doing your own projects, just because of many, many privileges that you have as a student. I think one big part of it is many resources that you can use. For example, free software. I know for like Adobe and many Adobe, Canva, many software that you can get for free as a student. But also podcast rooms like the one that we're sitting right now, or photo studios, or anything. Pretty much, you have facilities to construct or the spaces to conduct the events. Anything you can think of. But another great thing about that is about funding, because this is totally a fun part from here. How do you find funding for the project you're building? And for us, it was crowdfunded through Incentive Fund, U Fund, and also departments, Lisa and HR, for us for this project. But it's always, I think, for Incentive Fund and U Fund, Incentive Fund is focusing more on the inclusion and how do you promote this on campus, and U Fund is mostly around the new events. But you can apply that, and I'm sure that if you will try to search for opportunities, you will find those on campus. So in that sense, we were very privileged to have a lot of support for building our project.
Nice. So, yeah. Basically, in other words, if you want to find fundings, you better give it a shot.
For sure.
At what stage SNOOZE is now? Like, are you done with the project fully, or you need to do something else with it?
Yeah, right now, so June 2024, keeping the diaries here. We have already a NetPod in place. We have the optional booking system for it. We are still making final adjustments to the place. So, for example, when we installed the NetPod, we also wanted to make sure that it's very convenient, the space, and so we're trying to constantly get some feedback from students how to improve it. And one of the feedbacks were like it was located next to doors next to the doors, and they were pretty loud. So we are now fixing this through CFM department, facilities department. And another thing, the light was coming through, like it was disturbing when you were trying to rest. So we made sure that the light on top of the NetPod area is turned off. But also another thing is a space divider, because many people want a bit more privacy when you walk into the capsule, because you don't necessarily want many people to see you when when you're sleeping and you're just waking up and you're just like first minutes after your sleep, you are usually not the person who is very open to communicate with other people. So we are also now waiting still for the space divider, but generally it's totally usable. We're also happy very much for anyone's feedback, how we can improve. And yes, you can find it on the downstairs in the Vrychov library at the University of Twente.
Mm-hmm. And for now, it's only one capsule. Are you planning to do another one, or not really?
For now, we started with one just to test what will be the demand for it. So we can treat it as a pilot and as the testing the market. For now, we see really good traction. We also received some comments like, "Hey, we would want to have more capsules on campus." And I think it's a great sign, but of course it needs to be further validated. For us, for Nina, Chantal, and myself, we set the start, but we also made sure that the project is sustainable, so that it not only, once we are gone, once we are graduated, we can leave the university and we know that it will be still maintained because of how everything is organized and who takes care of the space, and is pretty self-sufficient. We are leaving all the materials in the way that it's easy to continue with growing number of capsules. So we discussed it also with Lisa department and HR department, that in case there will be enough demand for that, it will be pretty easy to further expand the project.
Great. So, but you will find a new group of people who will take care of the project, or you think that is not going to be necessary anymore?
For now, I think it's not in the sooner future. If it will be such an initiative, it will be most probably taken by university itself, by some department at university, rather than UIF. But for now, it is originated as UIF project. But then further, it's up to the university to think what to do with it.
It was great to get to know the project you're working on. But do you also work somewhere else, like a part-time job?
Yeah, it's been 2 years since I'm in Topicus. It's an IT company. We serve in different sectors. I like how they're also promoting that we are invisible, but we are everywhere, because we have 4 different departments. We have education, we have finance, we have healthcare, and we have social. And we're doing many things, but they're mostly B2B or B2G. B2 government, B2 business. And I'm working as information analyst there. And I'm working part-time, so 16 hours a week. I started working there since 2nd year of my university. So I applied on my 1st year, and in the summer between my 1st and the 2nd year of university, I got the job. And I think even till now, I'm the youngest employee there in Topicus, at least in my department. I started when I was 19.
Cool. But how did you manage to find a job?
That was actually a super funny story. I knew I wanted to work somewhere, but it wasn't on my short-term planning, you know? I knew that somewhere till summer it would be nice, maybe to make some internship or maybe to have some experience in the real-life company would be incredible. And then I heard that there is such a thing as Business Days Twente. And I'm like, yeah, sure, sounds fun. Like, let's go, let's see what companies are there, what opportunities are there. But I didn't go with the aim to actually find the job. I was like, just let's see what's out there. But apart from the career fair that Business Days are organizing, there are also some other events, say company, like lunch in a company or something. But I signed up pretty much for everything that involved IT companies. I was just curious. So I signed up for a lot of things, and I got picked based on the CV to an event called Conversation with Topicus. So right, it's a conversation with Topicus. I'm like, yeah, cool, because I have my career ambitions, and I'm curious how Dutch job market works. So let me go there and ask my questions. Like I'm here. I want to be on this position. What would you recommend to be my career journey? How can I get there? I'm going to there literally with a list of like 20 questions about my career, and then I enter the room, and Nick, the HR in Topicus at the time, he's like, "Hello, nice to meet you. Welcome to the interview for Topicus." And I'm sitting there, literally first interview ever in my life. And I'm like, I was not prepared for that. And even more, because I wanted just to sign up for events on business days. And I really didn't care which CV I uploaded, because I had no strict plans for the job. So I didn't even remember which CV I uploaded. And then he opens my CV and like, oh, let's go through your CV. Can you tell something about yourself? And let's go on. Like, I see that you are here, did this and that. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, whoa, this is job interview. I was totally not prepared. And then even more, at some point, he asks me about one of my projects, and then he clicks on the link, and then the casino website opens.
No.
And he's like, is it your project? And I'm like, no, it's totally not. But apparently the domain of the website of the project got expired, and the casino bought out that domain. So then the casino was opening, and I'm like, oh no, this is such a bad first impression. But it's funny how that worked out later, because he's like, okay, that's fine. I see that you're quite passionate about what you're doing, but your CV is like is pretty bad. Can you upload with good links your CV to our website? And there's like a button like open position. And I uploaded my CV because, like, I promised Nick I will upload my CV, and it was quite a nice conversation with them. So I'm like, yeah, sure, upload it. And then totally different HR, by that time it was Debbie, and she contacts me, and she's like, hi, I see your application in the open position. Do you maybe want to call sometime to discuss the opportunities? And I'm like, okay. And then we went once again with the whole interview process. And of course, by the end, I said like, hey, I actually already had the interview with your colleague. By the way, I'm the same person who fucked up with the link to the casino. I'm the same person now here. And she's like, yeah, but I see from notes that we liked you. So do you want to proceed? And I'm like, sure. You know, like if there is an offer, I am totally down for that. So we proceeded, and then at some point she calls me back, and she says like, hey, we really like you, but unfortunately we don't currently have the position for you right now. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds like we'll call you back and never calling back, you know? It sounds like a nice rejection. And because it was not in my plans anyways to get a job, so I was like, yeah, that's also fine. I'll just keep searching whenever I need a job. But then next week, I again received a call from her. She's like, yeah, but we're really searching for the position for you. We just don't know yet. We don't have the capacity right now. But are you still down for that? Because we would love to have you. I'm like, interesting. Second week in a row when I received the call saying like, it sounded like it was not a rejection, you know? It sounded like they're really searching for the place for me. And it lasted, I think, good couple of months. And then they were also trying to figure out with a visa for me. And then I also did a test assignment. And then at the end, someday I just receive a call and they're like, yeah, we found a position for you. You are a business analyst now. So I'm like, oh, wow, great. And since then, I'm there, part of Topicus, and I absolutely love it. It's a great position. You can learn a lot. And yeah, it's been incredible, even though I never searched for the job, but I got really great. I'm really happy with where I'm at now.
So basically you were not looking for anything, but you found something very nice.
Exactly. Same as it was previously with hosting. You know, you're not searching for it. You're just like trying to do something in the direction of what you are interested in, and then opportunities find you themselves.
Cool. And is it difficult to combine your part-time work with studies?
I think it's not challenging for me. It's a good combination of 16 hours a week and studies, but I totally think it depends on the study you're following. I'm following business information technologies, which I wouldn't say the most complex study direction here at UT. And also since school years, I'm used to do a lot of things at the same time. So it rather gives me energy when I can do both work and I can do both study and I can both build some UIF projects and maybe to be involved in something else. It adds energy to me. For me, it's not, but I think it totally depends on the direction of the student, what they're following, and also on the energy, how much energy do they have to do these things. But also give also credits to the company. They're being very flexible. If they say, if you have exams, we will not bother you with any work questions. If you have anything else on your plate, give priority to that. So they completely acknowledge that university is my priority. And they say that, put effort into that. You can be pretty flexible with your working hours. So for me, as a maximalist, I'm like always trying to be there 16 hours a week, and also, of course, trying to deliver good work. But to give credits, they're very flexible, and I'm very impressed by that.
Nice. It sounds like Topicus is a nice working place. For
sure. Free advert here. Free advert here. Even more, something that I could not believe till the end is that when I was going for a study exchange, I went to Hong Kong, which is totally on a different part of the planet. I was like, you know, I could still keep working part-time maybe if they would allow me to work online, because now I'm working one day on site and one day online. And they were like, yeah, if you want to keep working at Topicus while you are for half a year abroad, go ahead. Like we would be waiting just for you to be back, but you can totally work online for half a year. And I was so impressed. I'm like, whoa, really? It sounded crazy. So I was working in a different time zone, but even during study exchange, I was still working in the Dutch IT company.
Sounds pretty cool. And you mentioned your exchange in Hong Kong. I have a few questions about it. So, what was the process? How did you apply?
There is study application process for this, and I think it's pretty similar for many studies. At first, you choose different destinations, and there is the whole list of partner universities that you can go to, and there are multiple partner programs that you can choose from. So you choose your university, you choose the program that you want to study there, and then you apply. I think you give the priority of 5 destinations, and you then get nominated for the location by University of Twente. So say, I know for some it's a random draw, for some they look into some other details. Mostly for our study, I think it was random draw. They're drawing who is going to which location, and then you need to get accepted by your exchange university. You apply for visa, you search for accommodation, you go there and enjoy your life for half a year in a different location.
But would you say it was a difficult process?
I wouldn't say it was a difficult process per se, because still you get a lot of support from university. But you have to be very responsible in this process. So it's totally your responsibility to search for destinations, to then apply for a visa, to maintain all the communication between 2 universities. So if you cannot just put it in the furthest box and like don't pay attention to that, then you will not end up going to that location. But still, most probably there will be study coordinators saying like, hey, what is your progress on this one? But I also like how it's been a bit flexible, because even with random draw, I applied for 5 destinations, and I remember all my friends already got their responses. Oh, you're nominated for your first priority, second priority, and I did not get any response. And I was like, at first, oh my God, what's going on? And then I, at the end, get an email: you were not picked to any of the destinations you applied to. And I'm like, well, that's unlucky. But I was like, no, I cannot miss this opportunity, because all of my friends who I heard coming from study exchange, they were like, best experience in my life, and I'm like, I totally cannot miss it. So I just texted study exchange coordinator. I was like, hey, I really want to go somewhere. What are the open destinations left? Maybe someone rejected the proposition to go there, or maybe you still have more open spaces there. And one of the open spaces was City University of Hong Kong. For me, it was like, I want to go the furthest. I want to see the most cultural differences, even though maybe Hong Kong is not the most cultural differences, but it's pretty far. So, and I'm super happy that I ended up going to Hong Kong. So I think it's also quite flexible in terms of that.
I can imagine that you need to stay somewhere there, like you need to have an accommodation. Was it difficult to find an accommodation during your exchange semester?
For me, it wasn't complex. I applied for accommodation that you have by university, so like a dorm. And there is again a lucky draw there. And this time I got lucky. I got lucky and I got picked for the student dormitory. But I also have friends who applied and who did not get a student dormitory there in Hong Kong. They managed to get accommodation some other way. Sometimes they were long-term renting from Airbnb or some local websites for renting the apartments. They still managed to do that. And I also think it very much depends on the destination university. So for some university, I know dorms are guaranteed. For some, they might not even have a dormitory, so you have to arrange everything yourself. For me, it was a lucky draw, and I was on the lucky side.
Yeah, then it sounds manageable.
Yeah.
I guess. Mm-hmm. I think there is a rumor that when you're going to study abroad, the focus in more on the abroad part, not on the study part. Do you feel like it was applicable for Hong Kong, or you had to study a lot?
It was something that I was very scared of because, you have sort of a stereotype that in Asia, people study way more, way harder. And I was like, oh, but I'm also subscribing to work part-time from there. And I'm like, oh. And I also looked at my calendar, and in CTU in Hong Kong, where I did my exchange, it is a 6-day study week. So I'm like, oh my God, if it's going to be a hard studying, plus it's going to be 6 days in a week, I just don't have my days ending up to each other to have 7-day week, because 2 days working plus 6 days studying. And I was like, this is totally a different experience that I heard from my friends who were partying all the time on their study exchange locations. I'm like, oh, what am I subscribing myself to? But it was great. At the end, it was, I think, you choose for yourself your pace of life and also your priorities, your lifestyle. So for me, it was interesting to also see what projects they have there. And honestly, it was maybe 2-3 full days of studying. And I also didn't have lectures every day. So it's more like you might have 1 lecture per day. Sometimes you have, of course, 3 or 4. But mostly it would be like 2-3 lectures per day. But some days are without any lectures. So it was still pretty nice to balance it. And even with that one, even saying that I was studying, and I actually cared about studying there, and I tried to perform for my work, I still say that my focus was on exploring the country and having fun. And I think I got a lot from the country, even though it looks like a small place, like Hong Kong is not a big piece of a land. But when you are there, you have so many things to explore. And even after half a year there, I still think that I could have seen more. But every week for me I was definitely every week going for some adventure. So you can totally combine it all together as long as you are good in jungling all the things around. For me, it was not a new thing, but I totally had my party times. I totally had my adventure times. I totally had my work times and study times. So it ended up being a nice combination. So I think you can totally combine everything. And also a lot depends on the destination, because I heard the more you go to the south of Europe, the less you study, the more you party. But for Asia, I was super scared of a lot of studies. It was not the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's not the case in your university in Hong Kong, but maybe still in some other universities in Asia, it could be the case. So we never know.
Yeah. And of course, there are also people, like, depends what you're striving for, you know? One hint, grades are not transferable. At least for my study, so it was pass or fail. And even though I still tried to perform, but I was not striving to be like the best in the class so that I would put too much time into studying. I still tried to get my personal understanding of it, but not trying to be, you know, like super academically perfect grader, you know.
Mm-hmm. You were not trying to be an academic weapon.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I think in summary, you're saying that you had time for everything, for partying, for work, for studies, and it wasn't that big of a deal. It's just a matter of time management, right?
It was fun, yeah.
Cool. Okay, and moving closer to the end of the episode, do you have any final advice for the current UT students?
I think the thought that we revisited more than once in this episode is that if you're doing at least something towards what you're willing to do, so say if you want to be involved in entrepreneurship, if you do one first move towards the direction, opportunities will find you. So it's not a difficult thing to do. So I like I like how people say, you know, like if you run towards your goal, if you cannot run, walk. If you cannot walk, lie in the direction of your goal. And I think it totally helps also in UT. Sometimes you just like lay in the direction and opportunities find you.
All right. Then thank you a lot, Viktoriia, for joining.
Thank you for having me here. It was a pleasure.
And we will hear each other in the next episode.
Yes. Cool. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.